It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day when the clouds seem to carry every weight of a man's soul, and for Matthew Hale, one of the richest yet loneliest CEOs in the country, the gloom outside mirrored the quiet ache in his heart. His towering mansion in the hills stood silent, its vast marble hallways echoing only the faint hum of distant rain. He sat in his study, sipping lukewarm coffee, staring out the floor-to-ceiling window, watching raindrops race down the glass like silent tears. His company, Hale Tech, had just crossed $1 billion in annual revenue. To the world, Matthew was a legend, brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. But what no one saw behind the headlines in business magazines was the man who once had a wife he adored and a child he lost to illness years ago. Since then, he had shut himself off from the world, replacing laughter with silence and family dinners with lonely meals served by house staff. His house was big, but empty. His life was full, yet hollow. Until that day, the knock came soft but steady. He almost didn't hear it. Confused, Matthew checked his watch. No meetings. The staff had left for the day. Another knock. Curious and slightly annoyed, he walked to the main entrance and opened the massive wooden door, and what he saw made his breath hitch. Standing there, soaked to the bone, was a little boy no older than 4. His clothes were thin and damp, clinging to his tiny frame. His shoes were mismatched and torn. But what struck Matthew most weren't the rags or the rain, it was the boy's eyes. Wide, innocent, full of longing and something that looked a lot like hope. The child looked up at him and, with a small voice trembling from the cold, said, "Can you be my friend?" For a moment, Matthew just stood there. A billionaire, speechless before a barefoot child. No reporters, no bodyguards, no polished boardrooms, just a kid with eyes like his son's, and a question that cut deeper than any business deal ever could. Where are your parents?" Matthew asked. The boy shook his head. "I don't know. Mama told me to wait outside. But she didn't come back." A lump formed in Matthew's throat. He knelt down, placing a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "What's your name?" "Liam," the boy replied. "I'm 4, and I'm brave." That last part made Matthew's lips twitch slightly. "You are brave," he whispered. "Come inside, Liam, you're freezing." As Matthew led him in, wrapping a soft towel around the child's shaking shoulders, he had no idea that this was the beginning of something far bigger than either of them could imagine. That day, a door opened, not just to a house, but to a heart that had been locked for years. As Liam sat in the warm kitchen, devouring a bowl of soup, he talked about his toy car he lost, about his dreams of becoming a superhero, and about his mom who gets sad a lot but is really nice. Matthew listened, nodding, his eyes misting more than once. The boy had no idea who Matthew was. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. Not the broken man behind the mansion. To Liam, he was just someone who opened the door. Someone who didn't send him away. That night, after putting Liam in a guest room bed, Matthew made dozens of calls, social services, police, private investigators. But something inside him prayed they wouldn't find the mother too soon. It was selfish, but true. Because for the first time in years, his house didn't feel empty. For the first time, someone had asked to be his friend. And it wasn't because of his money, or his company, or his success. It was just him. The next morning, Liam woke up with a giggle and a request for pancakes. They played board games, watched cartoons, and when Liam grabbed Matthew's hand and said, "You laugh funny, but I like it," something cracked open inside. The man who hadn't smiled in years. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the city, someone else was searching too. A desperate mother named Elena, wandering the streets, haunted by guilt. She hadn't abandoned her child, not intentionally. But life had become too hard. The eviction, the job loss, the nights sleeping in shelters, the endless rejections. She told Liam to wait near the house she had passed many times, the one with the garden and the kind-looking windows. "If I don't come back soon," she'd whispered, "just knock. Someone nice lives there, I think." And then she'd vanished into the city's storm. She hadn't meant to disappear for long. But fate had its own twisted ways. Back at the mansion, Matthew and Liam were becoming inseparable. Days turned into a week. Then 10. Still no sign of Elena. The authorities were searching. Posters were going up. But something deeper was happening within Matthew. He wasn't just helping Liam, Liam was healing him. That's when something extraordinary happened. One night, Liam brought out his worn notebook, filled with scribbles and stick figures. He pointed to one drawing. "That's me," he said, "and that's you." You have a cape. You saved me. Matthew swallowed. I didn't save you, Liam. You saved me. The boy blinked. How? You reminded me how to be human again. That night, Matthew sat at his late son's piano and played for the first time in years. Liam clapped and danced, and when the boy hugged him tight and said, "You're my hero," Matthew wept. Not because he felt like a hero, but because someone saw him as one. And then came the day when everything changed. A knock. This time, it wasn't a child. It was a woman, thin, trembling, and hollow-eyed. "I think my son is here," she whispered. When Liam saw her, he ran, arms wide, tears pouring. "Mama!" Elena collapsed into him, sobbing. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to leave you." Matthew stood back, his heart torn. In just 10 days, Liam had become his world. But he knew this was right. Still, what happened next shocked even him. Elena looked at him and said, "You opened the door when I couldn't. You gave my son warmth, safety, and love. I'll never forget it." She hesitated, then asked, "Could we, maybe come back sometimes?" Matthew didn't hesitate. "No," he said, voice soft. "Not sometimes. Come live here, with me. Let me help." And just like that, the house wasn't empty anymore. It became a home. The story of a little boy who knocked on a door, and the broken man who opened it, not knowing that in that moment, they were saving each other. The miracle wasn't just that Liam found help. The miracle was that Matthew found life again. And it all began with a knock, and 4 little words, "Can you be my friend?" The days that followed were unlike anything Matthew Hale had ever experienced, not as a billionaire CEO, not as a man once hardened by grief, but as someone rediscovering the very essence of love. Liam's laughter echoed through the once quiet mansion, filling every corner with life. Elena, still fragile but healing, slowly began to bloom again, her eyes gaining color and strength with every passing day. She would cook small meals, nothing extravagant, but full of care, and insisted on cleaning as a way to repay the kindness, even though Matthew reminded her she owed him nothing. For the first time in his life, his home smelled of cinnamon pancakes, wet crayons, and homemade tomato soup instead of polished marble and stale silence. But outside those walls, the world was beginning to notice. It started when Matthew, usually guarded and private, posted a photo on Halitech's internal forum, a smiling Liam sitting on his shoulders, both wearing superhero capes. The caption read, "Sometimes the smallest hands rebuild the biggest hearts." It went viral within hours. Staff members who feared their cold, untouchable boss began seeing him in a new light. Media outlets picked up the story, first speculating, then investigating, and finally praising. Billionaire CEO rescues abandoned child, but finds himself saved too. The world wanted interviews, headlines, appearances. But Matthew wasn't interested in attention. All he wanted was more mornings with Liam snuggled beside him, asking for cereal while watching cartoons. More evenings where Elena would sit beside him in the garden, sipping tea as Liam chased butterflies. But peace, as he would learn, is always tested. The first test came from the past, Elena's past. A lawyer representing the biological father, a man Elena had long escaped from, suddenly reappeared. He had seen the news, smelled opportunity. He wasn't interested in Liam, he wanted money, power, headlines. The man filed for custody, claiming abandonment and alleging that Elena was unfit. The court proceedings were swift and brutal. Old records were pulled, shelter stays, past job losses, even her mental health struggles were weaponized against her. Matthew stood by her side, offering his legal team, his resources, his unwavering support. But nothing compared to what Liam did. On the day the judge asked to speak with the boy privately, Liam sat down, looked up with his big brown eyes, and said, "My mommy loves me. She just got lost. But Matt helped us find home again." When asked who Matthew was, Liam smiled and said, "He's my best friend. He makes mama laugh, and he reads me bedtime stories. He said I'm brave, and I think he's brave too." The judge, moved by the child's pure truth, dismissed the father's claim as opportunistic and closed the case. Elena was awarded full custody, and Matthew was named Liam's godparent. But the moment wasn't just a legal victory, it was emotional. Elena, overwhelmed by the support and love she'd received, finally broke down in Matthew's arms. "You didn't just save us," she whispered through tears. "You gave us something we never dreamed we could have again, hope." In the following weeks, something even more unexpected happened. Liam's story became a catalyst. Dozens of CEOs, influencers, even politicians reached out to Matthew, asking how they could help similar children. A foundation was born, the Liam Project, designed to support homeless families, single parents, and abandoned children. It launched with $1 billion endowment, but more than money, it launched with a story. A story of how one child's knock changed a man's life. At the inaugural fundraiser, Elena stood on stage, nervous and shaking. She had never spoken to a crowd, never imagined herself on stage. But with Matthew holding Liam in the front row, she found her voice. "I was invisible," she began. "Just a mother without a home. A statistic. But someone opened their door. Not just to my son, but to all of us. This foundation isn't about charity. It's about friendship. It's about second chances. And I hope you'll help give someone else the miracle we received." The crowd erupted in applause. That night raised $300 million. And more than that, it raised awareness. Stories began pouring in from everywhere, orphans who found mentors, mothers who found jobs, lost souls who found belonging. One knock had become a ripple, then a wave. Meanwhile, at home, life settled into something beautiful. Matthew, who once dreaded birthdays, began planning Liam's fifth with balloons, a magician, and homemade cake. Elena enrolled in college again, studying social work, wanting to help other women like her. The three of them, once strangers lost in their own pain, became inseparable. They took walks by the lake. They had game nights full of cheating and laughter. They even started a weekly tradition, Friendship Friday, where one person would say what they were grateful for. Liam always went first. "I'm grateful for pancakes, cartoons, and cuddles," he'd say. Elena would say, "For being seen again. For having my son back." And Matthew, every week, would say, "For the knock that saved me." Then came one special morning, exactly 1 year since that rainy day. Liam ran to the door, pretending to knock, and giggled. "Remember, Mr. Matt, when I knocked and said, 'Can you be my friend?'" Matthew knelt down, tears in his eyes. "How could I forget? That was the best day of my life." Liam tilted his head. "So, are we still friends?" "Always," Matthew said, "forever and ever." That evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Matthew turned to Elena. "I used to think success meant numbers, buildings, boardrooms. But now, I think it's this. A hug, a laugh, a home." She smiled, her hand finding his. "Then you're the richest man in the world." He looked down at the boy resting between them, head on his lap, and whispered, "Yeah, I think I am." And so, this is the story of a 4-year-old who knocked on a billionaire's door, not knowing he was about to change a life. Not knowing he was about to build a family. A miracle didn't fall from the sky. It came in the form of friendship, forgiveness, and love. It came in the courage of a little boy and the open heart of a broken man. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness matters, and that second chances are real, then please, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel for more true stories that inspire. Because sometimes, all it takes is one small knock, to open the biggest door in someone's life.